People always say that black people don't support each other, women don't support each other. I'm like, you know what, I don't know who started that nonsense, but it is not true. If it was true, then Afro Botanics wouldn't be one of the biggest natural hair brands in the country. I mean, we are competing pound for pound, shoulder to shoulder with international brands that have been in existence forever, who have marketing budgets that stretch as long as my eyes can see. But we are there because black females are buying and supporting our products, you know. So it's not there that thing that black women or black people don't support each other. If you're providing something, a product or a service that they want, they will buy it. What I do think is true is generally the South Africans don't have a let me buy proudly South African or proudly local. That isn't that big yet, in my opinion, which is why Proudly South African has failed. I love the Buy Black movement in the US. I wish it would happen here. It would change so many things about our economy that we complain about. We have the power. Our rand can actually change how the economy looks if we know how to use it. I'm Ntombenhle Khathwane, and I am the founder of Afro Botanics, which has now become a multi-brand business. It started off Afro Botanics, we were only doing natural hair care products, and we now have about 4 brands under us. We've got Afro Botanics, which still does natural hair, natural body, natural baby products. And then I have an eco-friendly, botanical infused household products brand, which is called Raindrops, where we do eco-friendly dishwash, we do eco-friendly anti-germ hand wash and anti-germ dishwash, as well as hand sanitizer, which is also sold at Clicks. And then I have a brand called Girl Boss, which is a brand targeting girls 15 to 29. And it's also a hair and body range. But it's more affordable for that age group. But it's also a multimedia platform that creates empowering content. So it's like my proposal or a dig at patriarchy and changing the status quo. And then the 4th brand we're currently working on and producing books is called Bala Africa. I started Bala Africa as actually first. It was the first business I started in 2009. It's kiddies books essentially, and it's targeting kids between the ages 3 to 9 years old. It's my proposal or my expression to the world on how we can create a more equitable world through producing products that celebrate being African, that derive their essence from African intelligence, African wisdom, and it's part of my contribution towards reimagining the Africa that we want, contributing towards an inclusive economy on the continent. I guess I am a serial entrepreneur at this point, and I'm just a proud African woman who is fulfilling my ancestors' dreams. I was lucky to come of age or go into university at the time of Thabo Mbeki's African Renaissance. So that really drove my passion and my need to contribute to a better Africa, how to reimagine Africa, or rather to remember Africa, because Africa has been an amazingly great place that has been forgotten in the annals of history. So I've always wanted to work in African development and the whole Africa Rising project. I went and I worked for government for a few years, like 8 years, and I was very disillusioned there. You can't make the difference that you want to make at the pace you want to make it at. And I felt entrepreneurship is where I have the creativity to do what I want, to make the difference I want, to make the decisions I want, to influence the way I want to. So that's how I ended up in business, because it's a vehicle that allows you to have a voice, to have influence, and to actually be an example of change. Because I also found when I was working for government, one of the things I learned was it was all in well going around telling people that, hey, you're free, you have freedom, you live in a democracy, you can design your own world, you're the creator of your destiny. But people don't know what that looks like, really. So they need people to show them. So I felt like I was a good example, starting from zero, nothing, no political experience, connections, no experience, nothing. I wanted to be that example that I can design the destiny I want to be, and so can everybody else. So for me, business is not just about making money. If my businesses were not about having social impact or changing then I'd be bored. I wouldn't do them. I wouldn't be inspired. I'm inspired because every day my business is about how am I contributing towards unleashing a child's potential or reminding a woman that she has the power to define her life. The thing I love most about running my own business is that I get to determine everything about it. So, we live in a time of social media where marketing should be not only experiential or about the product, but it should be how the values of the person who owns the business or the business fit into the values of the people who are consuming your products. So I'm very clear that my consumer, when I'm creating a product, I know that my consumer is a Black female who is Afrocentric, who's proudly Afrocentric, who wants to know more about her culture, about herself, who wants to live a life full of beauty. And how do you live a life full of beauty is by really living authentically and accepting yourself and embracing yourself authentically. So every day when I wake up, that's what I'm thinking. How am I communicating in a way that brings that out in the consumers so that my values are always translating? And I'm fully aware that my brands are a bit narrow in terms of their target market, but that's how I'd rather have it, because I'm not about mass production. I'm about making a difference. Everything makes it, everything is considered for me in that way. So Afro Botanics comes from African botanicals, because every ingredient we use comes from Africa, because we have an array of botanical ingredients in Africa. We should celebrate them. Raindrops, same thing. It's all about celebrating what rain signifies in the Black culture, in the Black spiritual culture as well. Girl Boss as well. It's about inspiring a generation of girls who are the bosses of themselves in a very patriarchal environment like Africa. Bala Africa is write your destiny. Bala Africa, Africa, write your destiny. Every African child, write your destiny. You owe it to yourself. So that's what drives me every day. That's what excites me about running my own business. But of course, there's other things. Obviously, we fit into a world with certain ideas of how things are. And even though, business is largely a very white space, I'm finding that Afro Botanics has been able to be a trailblazer in saying that African-owned, female-produced products do sell, because we are speaking to a majority consumer. The consumer that's driving the economy is the Black female, and it's been a shame for me that if you go to a ShopRite or you go to a Clicks, 98% of the products on shelf are owned by white male companies. So I also like the idea that I'm making a difference, opening rows and changing how people see Black female-owned businesses and products. When I first launched Afro Botanics, we were the first brand into retail as natural hair care brand. And I think when I first launched very first products, our products were driven by avocado oil. At the time, it was the new oil, it was the new oil craze, but by the time I got into retail, because this was in 2011, but by the time I got into retail, my first products got into shelves of Game in 2015, December. I had already started using more indigenous ingredients such as marula oil and baobab oil. But I think quickly by that time, it became different to differentiate ourselves based on the ingredients we use, because everyone can use baobab oil, everyone can use shea butter, everyone can use marula oil. So that's when we shifted our focus towards how do we want to impact our consumer? How do we want the woman who uses Afro Botanics or supports Afro Botanics to feel about herself? And that's when we actually changed our tagline to My Own Kind of Beautiful, because we now wanted to become that company that inspires women to not only look good by, artificially enhancing her hair with its hair extensions or learning how to take care of her natural hair, the external stuff. We also understood that beauty is a feeling. It's something that you nurture from within. And that's why we've also taken, slowly strides towards, holding workshops that speak about healing our traumas as Black females, healing your trauma as a human being. It's very traumatic, this life experience. So that's how we've come to differentiate ourselves more about how we are helping people create beautiful lives by creating products that help them create beautiful environments, help them leave a beautiful imprint on the world by using eco-friendly products or recycled packaging in our products, but then also by, we have a range called the African Queens, where we name and we educate about African queens who have been amazing throughout history. And then we've got now the space where we have My Beautiful Life, where we're empowering and sharing information around that. But of course, functionality is always something we're working on, which is why we always, as we've grown bigger, we're able now to buy more effective ingredients from companies from France, for example. So of course the effectiveness is important, but our differentiator has become more about how we make you feel the difference we bring to your life holistically, not just in terms of how you look.
What are some of the most challenging things about entrepreneurship, especially also as a Black woman?
One of the challenging things about entrepreneurship is just hard, guys. When I first started out and I was experiencing the freedom, I was like, yeah, everyone should be an entrepreneur. But entrepreneurship is so difficult, but it is the most rewarding journey or experience I've ever had in my life. It's difficult because, especially in South Africa, we don't really know the truth of building a business. We don't know and understand the fact that it takes between 5 to 10 years before a business actually really becomes profitable. And then for someone like myself who didn't go to business school, you underestimate things such as, bookkeeping, cash flow management, building the assets in a business, because you have to build assets in order to be able to borrow money in order to invest in your business, especially if you're the kind of business that wants to remain owned by yourself or whoever the founders were for as long as possible. I think there's a lot of misperceptions as well around investment, and I find I interact a lot with people, for instance, who went to Ivy League schools, who have the American way of doing business, which is start with the idea, work on the idea, find investors as soon as you can. I'm a believer in start small, bootstrap as much as you can, and build the business so that it's worth something, and that by the time you bring in investors, you really are saying, guys, my business is worth 100 million. So if you want 10%, you have to give me this much money. Whereas if you sell too soon, or get more investors too soon, or give away equity too soon, you lose quite a bit of your business. And I don't care what anyone says. Investors or private equity people will always dilute your vision. And I have a very, very clear vision. So my vision, yes, is to make money, but my vision is to make a difference on the continent. And unfortunately, most of the investors or investment banks are not driven by vision. They're driven by money. The other challenge, of course, is just being Black and female. When I started looking for money at the beginning of my business, I was speaking to mostly men. So whether it's Black male or female or white male bankers, they didn't understand the market, and they felt the market was saturated, even though I was like, no, the market is for relaxed hair. I want to do natural hair products. They didn't understand the difference. So one, that was the first thing. Then secondly, they forced me to become a manufacturer. When I started the business, I didn't really want to manufacture products. I wanted to be more on the brand side, because what I realized is that manufacturing and brand makes it two businesses. So, the manufacturing side is a business on its own that needs a certain different mindset to make sure that it's operating at its optimal, making money, or being able to buy products or ingredients in bulk so that they're cheaper and so that you can make more profit margin. And then there's a brand side of things where you're building the brand. That takes a lot of investment as well, So that's something that I was pushed into because I was trying to find investment money to really boost my business. And most of the the IDCs and the NEFs wanted to fund manufacturers. So then I had to start manufacturing, but I wouldn't have wanted to go manufacturing. That wasn't my passion. My passion is the brand side of things, but it's working out now that we manufacture ourselves. And So, just being female is hard enough. And then it's hard enough being black because, when I started approaching retailers, I had a buyer tell me to my face that they've given a chance to black manufacturers and the quality wasn't good enough. You don't deliver fast enough. They had all of these misperceptions. I'm like, yeah, but you need to take each one person, each one business coming to you and give them equal opportunity and not stereotype us. And it actually got very ugly. I had to go to the head of that retail chain to say that the people on the ground who are working for you are not espousing this transformation agenda you are speaking of. And eventually that's how I was able to get into one of the major retail chains. I won't name them now. But those are the kind of things you face. But on the other hand, the reason why I was able to eventually get into game was because the buyer there was a black female who understood that the market is changing, that natural hair is not a passing trend. It's something that's here to stay, because she also wanted to have natural hair. So that made the difference. Even at Clicks, I eventually got into Clicks because there was a black female buyer who understood the changes in the market. So it makes a difference that a majority white business like Clicks with majority investors overseas has local people who represent the market within where they operate. Makes a difference because that's how I was able to get into the Clicks of the world. The other thing about entrepreneurship as well is you've got to stay ahead of the times. So you've got to know the basics. You understand how to read your balance sheet. I don't like numbers, but I have to learn. You have to constantly be researching and staying ahead, or at least understand the trends that are coming up, because trends sometimes help make your business easier. Or you find a technology that makes your product more effective. So you've got to be curious. And I think it's a bit challenging for us because to be able sometimes to access that information, you have to subscribe to journals that cost you 10,000 Rand a year, for example. There's a journal I subscribe to that's got to do with cosmetics that costs 10,000 Rand a year. And that's money, it's an investment, and that's already a stumbling block for many of our black female entrepreneurs. But yeah, those are the main challenges I would say we face. The fact that we are in a very white economy, an economy that makes it difficult to distribute products. Like, it's expensive to supply. Let's say you want to supply spaza shops. The logistics of that is so expensive. It's difficult. That's why the big guys make it. Even retail in South Africa is for big people. It's for the Unilevers and the Pioneer Foods of the world. It's not really geared for people like ourselves. But I think luckily with the pandemic, the lockdown, I think it has really inspired people to feel more comfortable shopping online. So I think online is coming online in South Africa in a big way. So I think we should use that more. In fact, I get a lot of people wanting to find out how to get their products into retailers. I'm like, guys, our online is coming online. You will make more money on your products selling online than selling it through ShopRite or Clicks.
What would you say is the key to a successful business?
What is the key to a successful business? I think one of the things I got a lot of my team, our Afro Botanics team, the people who are at least in charge of driving strategy, was to watch a video and read a book by Simon Sinek, which says, start with why. And he also speaks about the infinite game, right? So you've got to be clear what kind of business or why you're going into business. So he calls it the infinite game. The infinite game is the kind of business that wants to be there for eternity. So there are people who start a business because they want to sell it, or because they just want to live a lifestyle, or maintain them, or they want to sell it. But if you want to build a brand that will be around for 100 years, 200 years, you've got to play the infinite game, which means that you're not trying to be the best at something right now, but you want to be consistently great for a longer period of time. When you are the kind of business that's playing like you're playing in a soccer match, that there is a finite line, then you will play that way, and you will then lose eventually. You'll experience what the Kodaks of the world went through, or what the Nokias of the world went through. So that's the kind of thinking that we have, and also start with why. When you start with why before you come to the what, before you come to the how, right? When you start with why do you want to do this business? Why makes you dig deeper than beyond the profit, right? You go into the who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose on earth? And how do I use this business as the vehicle for that? And that will take you through so many different challenges, because every single day in a business there's a challenge. Every single day. It will give you the resilience you need, because you will need resilience to see through your business during the tough times in the first year to 7 years. Because read any business book, they'll tell you that the first 7 years is when a business is still establishing itself. Because you need to decide, are you playing a finite game? Do you want to be the best writer or the best content producer for the next 5 years, or do you want to be the best content producer ever, always? That requires different type of thinking, requires different strategy, those two things. So if you start with those two things when you're strategizing your business, your product, your offering, it will help you stay on course. It will also help you be clear about who you are and why you are here.
What are some of the challenges that have come with COVID-19, and what are some of the things you've had to consider and change?
COVID-19, wow. I'm like probably a COVID-19 denialist. I am with all of the, what do you call them, conspiracy theorists. I remember the time when the lockdown was first announced. I was obviously upset about it, panicked, because I wasn't sure how it was going to affect my business. Would I have to close down as well? So immediately, I remember the president already, we had a week or 2 weeks of a soft lock type thing, right? And then, I think instinctively we all knew that it was going to become the full lockdown. I immediately, the first time he announced the soft lock, we had to sit down and think, okay, how are we going to keep ourselves relevant and working? We have contacts and relationships with retailers. There's a shortage of sanitizer right now. We can do sanitizer. So then that's how we got into manufacturing sanitizer and the anti-germ hand wash and the anti-germ dishwash. And luckily we were able to get them into clicks. But also at the same time, luckily, hair and personal care products were considered essential. So we were able to keep on working. We've never closed. We've worked every day. And actually, we've seen a very huge increase in sales because people can't go to salons anymore. But we've had so many challenges, such as even before the lockdown hit, people jumped onto the whole sanitizer bandwagon before we even saw that. I was kicking myself because then they bought out all the packaging we use. They bought out all the bottles, the spray pumps, everything the lotion pumps sold out. And so, we had to try and get our suppliers to say, guys, look, these people are just here for now. When COVID is done, they're not going to be running their sanitizer businesses anymore, but we're going to be here if you support us by giving us our packaging instead of prioritizing other people. And then I had to I had contacts. Luckily, I've always had contacts in China. And I had to call up Debbie and say, Debbie, I need spray pumps. I need lotion pumps ASAP. And she was like, girl, China's supplying the whole world. So there is just a backlog anyway. So the spray pumps we've had to wait for like up to 45 days to 60 days. And already there, I'm seeing business opportunities that I want to pursue in the future, because I'm like, there is no reason. Why do we not make spray pumps and lotion pumps in the country? It doesn't make sense. But that was like, wow, okay. Because in January, when China locked down, actually, we called our suppliers. We're like, guys, China's on lockdown. Do you guys have enough spray pumps for us? They're like, yeah, no, we've got for the next 6 months. But by March, they were out of stock. But China luckily had come online. So we now have to bring in our stuff. But now the downside of that is that we have to fly it in because we need to cut time. We can't ship it in. It takes a month to ship things in. It takes them 45 days to make the stuff, and then it will take another month to ship the stuff by ship. So we have to fly, but now because of the limited number of flights coming into the country, because no one's traveling, because most cargo also comes through passenger flights, we have to pay like triple the amount we would normally pay if the economy was functioning properly just for the to fly the stuff in. But luckily, we've been able to, I don't know how the Chinese have done it, but, their pricing is so good, such that even though we've had to pay more, even for the product itself and for the flying in, we're still able to absorb it without losing anything. So COVID has been a very interesting thing for me. Like, it's been very much about when we were forced to stay at home. I went into like a heavy meditation program. Luckily, we're able to, we have a yard at home, so we're able to exercise and play with the kids outside. I decided very early on, I'm not going to try and frustrate myself and homeschool my kids. I'm not a teacher. I'll end up fighting with my kids or creating a bad relationship with them. So we didn't do that. We invested in spending time together as a family, doing a lot of meditation, grounding myself. And the grounding helps as well in terms of, having that deeper soul, spiritual connection, because then it also helps you bring that into your business. Because for me, everything in my business is me. Your soul and your connection with soul has to be really strong in order for your business to be strong as well. So I used COVID as a gift in that way. I spent a lot of time working on myself, and because on an ordinary day I'm so busy and I get tired. I don't have time to meditate or anything like that. COVID is an opportunity, but now is a gift for me. But I'm also ready for the borders to open. I want to go to Mozambique. I want to go sit on the beach there and just relax. I'm hoping that things start to open up, and I'm worried about the economy for people. Like, I've seen a lot of businesses go down, I've seen people lose jobs, and that really concerns me. But on a personal note, that's how we were able to handle and pivot and to get the gift out of everything, because no matter how difficult the situation is, there's always a lesson and a gift you can find in it.
Why is it important for Black girls to think about owning a business?
Why is it important for Black girls to consider owning a business? Because then you are completely in charge of yourself, your life, your destiny, your world, your how you package yourself. You can be authentic. There's nothing that steals the life force out of you. There's nothing that drains you or separates you from your God self than living or working inauthentically, living in a space where you're not able to be 100% who you are, either in how you express yourself, how you wear your hair, for example, if your hair matters to you that much, how you able to voice your opinions, or how you're able to influence others. But also, though, if you look at a study of the people who have, who you'd say have mastered life, so to speak, people who've lived a fulfilled life, a very important aspect of their lives has been grounding their life in purpose. So they've worked in purposeful environments, in environments where they felt they were expressing what their purpose is, what their soul calling is. So when you have a business, I think it's difficult in this day and age for a business to succeed if it's a cosmetic thing, if you're doing it just for money. But if you're doing a business that's really fueled by your soul, your values, the thing that keeps your fires burning, you feel purposeful, you feel more happy, you feel more joyful. There is no good enough reason why anyone should spend 2 or 10 years unhappy just because they want to gain experience or because they want to gain financial stability. A business, I think, that is set in the right intentions will make money and you'll be happier for it. So we want to see more happy females out there. We need more females who are also stepping up into leadership roles. When you run a business, you become confident as a leader because you have to be a leader. We all have the ability to lead, even though the world tells us otherwise. So it brings out all of these really good, strong traits in you, and it teaches you a lot all the time. Like one of the things I learned and I came to terms with during the COVID time was, I'm not a good teacher, I'm not a good mentor, and I'm okay with that. It's okay. I'll work on it, but I know I'm not good at it, and it's okay. Instead of trying to be everything and perfect and good at everything, business also just allows you to come to terms and accept yourself as who you are and to love yourself and to use, the good thing about business is that you focus on the things you're good at instead of focusing on the things that you're not good at, which is what school does, right? If you're not mathematically inclined, you spend so much time trying to be good at mathematics. Why? When you should be focusing on what you're good at. Business makes you focus on what you're good at because that's what you can sell best and what you can be best at. So yeah, we need more girls, especially Black females, going into business.